Male cross-dressers demand access to women's restrooms and showers in the state of Kansas. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, and joining me again in studio today is Shawn Akers, Vice President of Middle Eastern Affairs for Liberty Counsel. Shawn, this is unbelievable. Kansas has become the latest battleground over granting special rights to homosexuals and cross-dressers, individuals who suffer from gender identity disorder or who don't, just men who have some kind of strange sexual proclivity and enjoy wearing women's clothing. They all fall under this rubric of transgender. The Human Relations Commissions and homosexual activist groups in Lawrence, Hutchinson, Salina, Wichita, and Pittsburgh, Kansas, have asked their respective city councils to add, quote, sexual orientation and, quote, gender identity to protected classes. Lawrence, Kansas, has passed this ordinance that would allow, again, men in women's clothing to enter the locker rooms where women are openly shower alongside them despite their biological reality. So in Kansas, understandably, fathers, brothers of women who would be placed at risk by this ordinance are up in arms, and Liberty Counsel is blowing the whistle on this. And you know, this is the theater of the absurd that we are witnessing in the state of Kansas, and it's just a microcosm of what we see under this LGBT agenda taking part nationwide.
You know, Matt, when you read something like this, several aspects of it jump out at you all at once. It's kind of a flood of thoughts. I mean, you've got everything from the intellectual side of this to the philosophical side of this, but the one that overshadows them all is the practical side, because we all have spouses, we all have children, we all have family members, and you're talking about letting someone's twisted political agenda here place your families in situations that you don't want them in. This is the kind of thing that is so facially ludicrous that it really does boggle the mind. Now, from a philosophical standpoint, though, it's fascinating. Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating, Matt, because we are playing out the same exact sinful game that began in the garden. When Satan came to Eve in the garden, he didn't tempt her with how good the fruit's going to taste. Yeah. He didn't tempt her with having been kept apart from this particular fruit while you could have done all the other. He didn't even tempt her with rebellion. What he tempted her with, he said, if you eat this, you will know good from evil. You will be as God. Yeah. You can become a God if you do this. And what we're seeing, Matt, with both abortion and especially something like this really pinpoints it, is an argument between man and God. Man made you male and female. Male and female, yeah. He made them. Yeah. He told you when you were born whether you would be male or female. This is man raising up in disagreement. Now, that's fine on an individual level, but this is man raising up with an individual disagreement and saying not just will man, but the state, the organized man, the body politic, the state, the government, not God, will decide who is male and who is female, that man is God, and God has been relegated to the dustbins of history.
Well, I've called this George Orwell meets The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And what I mean by that is, okay, the Emperor wears no clothes. We are all forced, here's the George Orwell part, under penalty of law. The law, the federal or the official government line says you must join in with this individual who is delusional and join in on their delusion that somehow a man, because he puts on a miniskirt, is a woman. You join in on this delusion under penalty of law. That's the Orwell part. So the Emperor wears no clothes. We have to pretend that a man is a woman or a woman is a man under penalty of law. And this means for all public accommodation, including restaurants, hospitals, stores, theaters, they would be required to allow men wearing women's clothes to use the restrooms. Again, public shower facilities even, where people are in full state of undress, showering, changing clothes, women would be forced. And if anybody complained, or if the business owner complained they would be the ones that would be discriminating against this sexually confused individual. George Orwell meets the emperor wears no clothes. The fact sheet that they put out, and lest we be accused of hyperbole and exaggerating this stuff, here's what the fact sheet says. Individuals who are nonetheless uncomfortable with sharing locker or shower facilities with a transgender person, again, this is a man in a miniskirt, should be accommodated by, here's their accommodation, by allowing those individuals to shower or change at a time when they will be able to use the facility in private. The fact sheet further goes on to say, under the law in Lawrence, Kansas, that if the people are uncomfortable with it, they need to just leave and wait for the transgender person to finish showering or finish using the restroom. So, again, it's the theater of the absurd here. We have to go out of our way to help facilitate, encourage, and accommodate this gender identity disorder, and that means your daughter, your wife, they need to just stay out of the locker room while the man is in there showering or doing. This is, again, when the LGBT agenda, which is an affront to the laws of nature and nature's God. This is what happens when the government gets behind this counter-biblical, counter-reality agenda.
Well, and Matt, it also shows one of these great discrepancies. When we talk about all the time, you see politicians use the term human rights. You see how twisted that definition can become. Because in this case, this is all based on some idea that a man who would like to dress up in women's clothing has now vested himself with governmental rights, or that the government has vested him with rights that other people do not have. Yeah. Because if you're not a cross-dresser, you don't have the right to go into the women's bathroom. The police will come out and pick you up as a pervert if you do that.
Well. Although to be a cross-dresser, the only requirement is that you subjectively say, today I feel like a man trapped in a woman's body. You don't even necessarily have to be in women's clothing. It's completely a subjective analysis. Hey, mister, why are you going into the women's showering facility? Well, I'm not a mister, I'm a missus. I'm a miss. Well, I'm sorry, you go right on in. That's the reality of this, and so that's the T in the LGBT. So anytime people hear about civil rights or gay rights or LGBT rights, this is what we're talking about.
Well, then that means that the signs on the bathrooms have no meaning at all anymore. And the fact is, though, that when we're talking about rights, Matt, it leaves out the idea and the realization that every right, so to speak, and I'm putting quotation marks around that the government creates places a responsibility on someone else. In this particular case, the rights created for a very, very small subset of society that would claim at apparently changing intervals what gender they think they are today would place a responsibility and displace the rights of the vast majority of people that would like to be able to use facilities as they were originally designed. So what you have is a tyranny of rights. We've noticed it developing literally since the 60s, but it's gotten to this absurd level now. And what is, by the way, the economic impact and the social impact of this? People stop going places that they're made uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, this is all by design. You're absolutely right. But this tyranny of rights, this tyranny of the minority, and we're not talking racial minorities, neutral minorities. We're talking about people who define their identity based upon sexually deviant behaviors and proclivities. So this is a tyranny of sexually deviant rights, and it's by design to displace the enumerated constitutional rights given by our Creator based upon the laws of nature and nature's God. These so-called rights violate the laws of nature and nature's God, and yes, violate the express guarantees that we have to religious liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of association granted to us by the United States Constitution. The LGBT agenda and constitutional rights cannot exist in harmony. And at Liberty Counsel, we defend the Constitution. We defend the original vision of our founding fathers, and we defend unalienable rights granted to us by our Creator. To learn how you can become part of Liberty Counsel's ministry, go to lc.org. Give us a call, 1-800-671-1776. Join the Liberty Counsel team standing up for real rights today.